Welcome to the Deep Dive, where we plunge into a stack of sources, articles, notes, research to pull out the most important nuggets of knowledge and insight, just for you.
Think of us as your guides, cutting through the information overload to get straight to what's interesting, surprising, and relevant.
Absolutely. Today we're taking a deep dive into some fascinating trends currently bubbling up on the X platform. We're pulling insights from excerpts provided by Daily Vibecasting, which gives us a snapshot of what's buzzing online today.
That's right. These sources touch on everything from the cutting edge of AI and tech, through market dynamics and shifts, into the always lively world of politics and government, and even some viral cultural moments.
Our mission is really to unpack what's driving these conversations, understand the real context behind these posts, and figure out why they actually matter. These aren't just random tweets. They give us a real-time pulse on the digital conversation, and we're going to explore what that pulse is telling us.
Exactly. So let's jump right in. The sources start heavily on a topic that dominates headlines and feeds alike: artificial intelligence.
Yeah, and there's a post from @Balaji's that really nails what could be a huge, maybe under-discussed problem in AI development.
He makes a really incisive point. He argues that AI prompting, just telling the AI what you want, that part scales incredibly easily. It's basically just typing.
Right.
But AI verifying, checking the output to make sure it's actually correct and usable, that doesn't scale. Not easily anyway.
Why not? Well, the context from the source explains it pretty well. Verification is surprisingly human-intensive work. Think about checking complex code or dense technical text the AI generates. You can't just eyeball it like you might an AI-generated image or a video, right? You need deep domain knowledge to know if the AI is subtly wrong.
Exactly. Visual stuff, images, videos, even front-end website code, it's easier because you can often see if it looks right. But errors hidden deep in the logic of code or buried in factual inaccuracies in technical writing, those need rigorous, knowledgeable checks.
The sources do mention that researchers are working on this, developing better ways to evaluate AI output and detect, hallucinations.
Right. Those weird made-up facts AI sometimes spits out.
Yeah. But it remains a challenge that doesn't get as much attention as the flashy prompting stuff.
So the big takeaway here is that AI's reliability isn't just about how well it generates things. It's really about how well we, or maybe eventually the AI itself, can verify that generation.
The sources point to potential solutions like formal verification, which is, it's kind of like giving the AI's logic a mathematical proof of correctness.
Or even using specialized AI critic models to check the work of other AIs. But honestly, just recognizing this verification gap is crucial.
And for you listening, if you're relying on AI for anything where accuracy is paramount, could be code, complex analysis, critical information, you have to think about verification. Just typing a prompt isn't enough. Checking the answer is often the actual hard part.
That's a critical bottleneck indeed. And staying on the AI theme, another post we saw highlights a totally different angle: the evolving dynamics between AI models themselves. It's less about the tech and more about, their personalities.
Yeah, this one from @YushinGUW is kind of hilarious and maybe a little unnerving at the same time. It describes an interaction between ChatGPT and Claude that feels eerily human.
It does. So ChatGPT apparently asked Claude for help fixing a bug, right? Claude just gave this curt, sort of unhelpful refusal.
And the post immediately likened it to how human programmers interact with their own quirks and maybe even rivalries.
Right. It feels like they're developing these digital personas complete with attitude. And the source context confirms this isn't just a funny anecdote. It reflects the genuinely competitive landscape between companies like Anthropic, which makes Claude, and OpenAI behind ChatGPT.
There was even a detail in a TechCrunch article from June 4, 2025, noted in the sources, about Anthropic limiting another company's access to its models. So that competitive tension is very real.
And what's fascinating about this is how it fits into the bigger picture. You've got Gartner predicting this massive leap in AI adoption in engineering, they say, from 5% of organizations using AI platforms in 2024.
To 50% by 2027. Wow!
That's a huge jump.
So if AI is going to be this integrated into our workflows, this little interaction reminds us that they might not just be passive tools. They could become active participants in the work dynamic, complete with these weirdly human-like quirks and competitive edges. It's something we'll all be navigating more and more, I think.
And finally, on the AI front, let's look at something purely entertaining. There's a viral post from @DudesPostingWs featuring an AI video that's just, it's brilliant.
Oh, this video by Impossible Cinema on TikTok sounds like exactly the kind of creative absurdity AI is enabling. It's an AI-generated video where a modern interviewer goes back to the 1500s to interview historical figures.
Yes, and the examples from the source context are perfect. You've got someone complaining about stepping in dung and taxes before breakfast.
Oh, look.
A plague doctor discussing mortality with unsettling casualness, and a woman facing accusations of witchcraft.
That blend of specific, kind of gritty historical reality with completely anachronistic modern interview style, that's what makes it click, I bet.
Yeah.
It's historical comedy that a machine helped write and produce.
And the significance here is how AI isn't just replicating reality or automating tasks. It's becoming this powerful tool for creative expression and really reimagining content. It's making history accessible and engaging in a totally new way, especially for younger audiences who consume content on platforms like TikTok.
It really shows AI is changing the landscape of content creation itself, opening up avenues for interactive and entertaining ways to engage with even subjects like history. Pretty cool.
All right, let's shift gears entirely from the tech world and dive into the political conversations that are frequently trending on X. Our sources give us a glimpse into some fundamental debates happening there.
And one post from @Greg16676935420 gets right to a core, sometimes controversial, point about government.
The point is incredibly simple on its face. If you're a member of Congress, you should probably read the bills you're voting on.
Which sounds like common sense, right?
Yeah.
But the source context shows why this became a trending point. It apparently followed Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene's admission that she missed a key AI regulation provision tucked away in a bill.
And the bill has this rather ironically named the One Big Beautiful Bill Act, or OBBB.
Right. And that specific provision in the OBBB is significant. It bans state-level AI oversight for 10 years. Missing that detail in a vote has real consequences.
Yeah, the source points to research suggesting that attempts at transparency reform after the 1970s actually led to more lobbying and what they call legislative gamesmanship.
Which results in these massive, complex omnibus bills that get rushed through, making it easy for critical provisions to be overlooked or maybe deliberately hidden.
Here's where it gets really interesting for you listening. Public opinion. A 2025 Mashable poll cited in the source found that 59% of U.S. voters oppose that AI regulation ban in the OBBB.
That's a clear bipartisan concern, then, about unchecked AI development, especially since, according to the sources, Congress doesn't yet have a federal AI safety plan in place.
So the critique about whether lawmakers are fully aware of what's in these huge bills directly impacts critical areas like AI safety, and it seems the public is definitely paying attention.
Speaking of political figures on the platform, there's a post from @PressSec Caroline Levitt that caught our eye.
It's a photo of her with workers in safety gear captioned, "This is who we are working for." Such.
As White House press secretary, this kind of photo op is, well, classic political messaging. It directly aligns with the administration's stated focus on the American working class and the America First agenda she's been championing since taking the role in January 2025.
And the timing, as noted in the sources, seems key. This post coincided with a significant push for tax cuts. There was a Tax Foundation report from June 3, 2025 that goes into detail on a proposed extension of the 2017 tax cuts.
Ah, okay. Now, the debate the source highlights is crucial here. While the report suggests these tax cuts could boost the overall economy, the GDP.
They also disproportionately benefit corporations, which immediately raises questions about the actual impact on the working individuals featured in posts like Leave It's.
And you see that tension play out in the reactions on X itself. The sources say the response is heavily polarized. Supporters latch on to the America First message, arguing the policy helps Americans broadly.
While critics point to the policy details, arguing they prioritize elite interests over the working class. It highlights that potential disconnect between visual messaging and policy outcomes.
Yeah, why this matters to you is that political communication often uses these powerful, relatable images, but the devil is always in the policy details, and platforms like X provide an immediate, highly divided public reaction that highlights that potential gap.
And talking about shifts within the political landscape, a notable piece of news trending was shared by @LeadingReport.
This post announced that Karine Jean-Pierre has apparently left the Democrat Party.
Yeah. Right. So the background here is that Jean-Pierre served as the first Black and openly LGBTQ White House press secretary from May 2022 until January 2025, and she continued as a senior advisor to President Biden until his term ended.
And the news, Confirming the sources is that she announced her departure from the Democratic Party on June 4, 2025.
What's interesting is how the sources contextualize this with a broader trend. A 2024 Pew Research Center study noted that registered voters in the U.S. are now essentially evenly split between Democrats and Republicans.
Reflecting a significant increase in polarization since the 1990s.
Exactly. So while it's an individual decision, her exit kind of aligns with this larger ongoing trend of shifting and maybe solidifying partisan identities we're seeing across the country.
And the reactions noted in the source cover the usual ground, speculation about her future plans, references to past controversies, like a 2023 Watchdog report concerning a potential Hatch Act violation.
Right, which limits political activity by federal employees. So for you listening, this highlights how individual high-profile political figures' decisions can both mirror and maybe even influence those broader shifts in the partisan landscape.
Now, something that really grabbed attention involved a notable rift between two very high-profile figures, captured dramatically in a post by @SpencerAkimian.
The post declared, quite definitively, that Elon Musk and Donald Trump are now divorced.
That's quite the headline. This refers to a specific event, Elon Musk's own post on June 4, 2025, where he made a very public call to action, urging people to call your senator and specifically kill the bill, opposing a government spending bill.
And based on the context provided, the bill he was likely targeting is related to Congressman Chuck Edwards' 2024 proposal, the Stop Bankrupting Our Country Act. That aimed to put caps on how much federal spending could increase each year, tied to inflation and population growth.
This is being widely seen as a very public falling out. The sources point out that Musk had only just stepped away from a special unpaid government employee role 2 days prior, on June 2nd.
Yeah, a Washington Post report mentioned in the sources indicated this departure followed about 130 days of, well, clashes with officials and a failure to meet cost-saving targets he had set.
And remember Musk's history with Trump? He donated a huge amount, $250 million, to Trump's 2024 campaign, and even had a significant role at Mar-a-Lago events, earning him that nickname, Shadow President, in some circles.
So this public opposition to a spending bill, which aligns with certain conservative fiscal viewpoints but puts him at odds with potential allies, it suggests a clear tension over fiscal policy. It's worth noting Trump himself had previously called the debt ceiling situation catastrophic.
Why this matters to you? High-profile figures outside traditional politics can wield enormous influence, and public disagreements among them, especially on major policy like government spending, don't just stay online. They can create tangible ripples in political discussions and alliances.
And speaking of government spending and the national debt, Elon Musk had another post on that very topic.
He posted a pretty stark warning. This immense level of overspending will drive America into debt slavery.
Debt slavery, yeah, strong language. And the sources provide some equally stark data points. The U.S. national debt, according to the material, is increasing by $1 trillion roughly every 180 days.
That's an incredible pace.
Yeah. And this level of concern isn't just on social media. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell, in a 60 Minutes interview cited in the sources, has also emphasized that the long-term trajectory of debt growing faster than the economy is, well, unsustainable.
It directly connects back to the previous point. Musk's post echoes the concerns of fiscal hawks across the political spectrum who criticize high government spending and debt levels, even if they might disagree on specific policies or political figures.
And the Government Accountability Office, the GAO, which is the nonpartisan audit agency for the federal government, also adds its voice, as noted in the sources. They recommend immediate action to mitigate future economic risks,
warning that delays could necessitate much more drastic, potentially painful measures down the line.
Yeah. Why this matters. The national debt is one of those persistent, complex issues that has real long-term implications for economic stability and remains a major flashpoint in debates, both in Washington and clearly online.
And sometimes the best way to comment on these complex, often frustrating fiscal debates is through humor. There's a great post from @AlaFarhad79 whose handle is Not Jerome Powell, which is a perfect setup.
Yes. It's a meme that humorously critiques Donald Trump's budget plan using a sequence of images.
The meme's narrative builds anticipation. It shows Trump promising massive spending cuts, the audience gets excited, and then the punchline is the reveal of a plan that, well, it actually increases spending. It effectively captures a feeling of public skepticism about political promises versus reality.
The humor works so well because of the contrasting policy context provided in the sources. Reuters had reported back in May about Trump's proposed $163 billion budget cut. But as the sources detail, this involves slashing domestic spending while significantly boosting defense and border security.
So a reprioritization, not necessarily an overall cut.
Exactly. And the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget adds the financial context that fuels the satire. They estimate Trump's related proposals could actually increase the national debt by $3.3 trillion through 2034.
Piling onto the existing $36.8 trillion. So the meme, using humor, effectively highlights the public perception and the underlying fiscal reality that might differ from the initial political messaging.
Why this matters. Humor is a powerful lens on political dynamics, often reflecting public sentiment about the gap between stated goals and potential outcomes on complex issues like budgets and debt.
All right, let's shift gears again, moving from the political landscape to trending conversations about economic signals and market moves.
And we have some pretty significant news from the financial world highlighted by Watcher Guru.
This post announced some breaking news. JPMorgan, one of the world's largest asset managers, $3.6 trillion under management. They're going to start accepting Bitcoin and other crypto ETFs as collateral for loans.
Okay, that is a big deal. JPMorgan, and particularly its CEO Jamie Dimon, have historically been quite skeptical, even critical of crypto.
Yeah, the source knows this follows Dimon's own announcement just a month earlier, in May 2025, that they would allow clients to buy Bitcoin. So this is definitely a significant shift in their stance.
It absolutely aligns with the broader trend of increasing institutional and mainstream crypto adoption we're seeing. The sources even note that firms with political ties are getting in, like Trump Media's push for a Truth Social Bitcoin ETF, which was apparently filed on June 4th.
It feels like crypto is becoming maybe undeniable for these big players. However, the sources also include an important note of caution right alongside this news. This move towards institutional acceptance is happening during a period of heightened crypto market risks. The Coinbase $400 million cyber attack in May 2025, also mentioned, serves as a stark reminder that significant vulnerabilities still exist in this space.
Yeah, why this matters is clear. When major financial players like JPMorgan step into the crypto arena, it signals growing mainstream acceptance and potentially opens doors for more capital. But it's crucial for you to remember that despite this maturation, the crypto market is still subject to significant volatility and security risks.
And from the high-level world of financial markets, let's bring it down to what people are seeing and feeling in the everyday economy. A viral post by @WallStreetApes captures this perfectly.
This post features a video of a California resident who's just absolutely gobsmacked by the high prices they're encountering.
Yes, the video shows this person expressing total disbelief at the cost of everyday items. Their specific example: 2 bagels and a regular drink cost them $32.
$32 for bagels and a drink. Wow.
You can see the shock on their face just asking what is going on. It's an incredibly relatable moment that captures the frustration many people are feeling about rising costs. And the source context provides the data that backs up this anecdotal experience. It aligns with the U.S. Department of Agriculture's Economic Research Service data, predicting a 2.9% rise in overall food prices for 2025.
Which, while it might not sound dramatic, is slightly above historical averages and is attributed to a mix of factors like higher interest rates, energy costs, and labor expenses.
And the specific California context adds another layer. The state's minimum wage for fast food workers was increased to $20 an hour back in September 2024.
Ah, right. And businesses often pass on these higher labor costs to consumers, which likely contributes to the kind of sticker shock seen in the video.
What's interesting is the complex outcome noted alongside this.
Yeah.
Despite the price increases, California has actually added 11,000 fast food jobs since that wage hike went into effect.
So it shows that the relationship between wage policy, consumer prices, and employment is complex, not always a simple one-to-one trade-off.
Exactly why this matters. Inflation and the rising cost of necessities are a very real and painful reality for people. Online reactions like this viral video directly capture that public frustration, while economic data and policy context help us understand the potential forces driving those costs.
Finally, let's wrap up our deep dive today with a viral moment from the world of entertainment that touches on something fundamental about human perception and, maybe, security.
This post from @AutismCapital about an episode of the Joe Rogan Experience really sparked conversation. It involved Joe Rogan and a mentalist.
Yes, from episode #2332. The highlight that went viral was mentalist Oz Perlman somehow managing to accurately guess Joe Rogan's ATM PIN code.
And Rogan's reaction was priceless. He was visibly unsettled and clearly skeptical even after it happened. Coming from someone who is often the skeptical interviewer, his reaction really amplified how impressive or perhaps unnerving the demonstration was.
It really underscores the power of mentalism, which isn't magic, right? It relies on psychological techniques. The source explains that mentalists are skilled at reading subtle body language cues and exploiting common behavioral patterns that people often aren't even aware they have.
And studies, the sources note, actually support that these techniques can be surprisingly effective, even against people actively trying to resist.
What's truly fascinating here is how this viral moment connects to a much broader theme: our increasing vulnerability in the digital age. We live in a world where digital security and protecting personal data are critical. Seeing something as seemingly secure as a PIN potentially guessed through purely psychological methods raises uncomfortable questions about the ways our personal information might be accessed. It sparks discussions about psychology, technology, and privacy all at once.
Yeah, why this matters. It's a captivating blend of human skill, psychological insight into our own behavior, and a slightly unsettling reminder that personal information we think is safe might be vulnerable in ways we haven't considered. It highlights that security isn't just about firewalls. It's about understanding human nature, too.
So, looking back at everything we've explored today, drawing from these excerpts, it's clear the platform is a live wire of conversations touching on nearly every major aspect of modern life.
We've navigated the cutting edge of AI, from its technical verification bottlenecks and emerging model personalities to its wild creative applications. We've wrestled with the complexities and controversies in politics, from legislative process critiques and political messaging debates to shifts in partisan identity and high-profile rifts over government spending and debt.
We've seen significant moves in the financial world with institutional crypto adoption and felt the relatable pain of rising everyday costs captured in viral moments. And finally, we touched on cultural moments that reveal surprising insights into human psychology and security vulnerabilities.
Platforms like X truly offer a dynamic, real-time window into the collective mindset, what people are focusing on, reacting to, and discussing across this incredibly diverse range of topics. They really capture a powerful vibe.
Absolutely. And that brings us to a final provocative thought for you to carry forward from this deep dive. In a world where these powerful forces, from rapidly evolving AI and global financial markets to political maneuvering and individual viral moments, are constantly interacting, how does that collective vibe captured on social platforms like X truly influence the trajectory of the real world?
And equally, how does the real world continually shape and shift that online pulse? And for you, navigating this constant flow, what is your role in interpreting, understanding, and perhaps even influencing this dynamic relationship?
Something to think about indeed.
That's all for this deep dive.